Greetings, my fellow game devs! Welcome to the channel and welcome to the ORK Framework 3 tutorial series for Unity. Regardless if you are a brand new developer just getting into Unity or an existing developer just looking for ways to expedite your product launch and ways to reduce the overall workload that you have to do, I personally think that this would be a great product for you. But in the meantime, let's jump over to the video and we'll get started with all of the tutorials and the how-tos. And hey folks, before we get started, I just want to let you know that in the comments below there will be links to the tutorial that we're going over as well as any downloads that are used in the video. So we'll jump over to it and we'll get started.
Alrighty folks, welcome back. Hopefully everybody is having a great week so far. We are going to continue right where we left off. We are going to work today on this video as the player setup. So this tutorial, we're basically going to set up our player and spawn it in the scene. While the player group will have 2 members, we are only going to set up 1 for now. We're going to set up the fighter. The goal of this tutorial is to be able to run around with our player. We're going to set up animations, the player combatant, the town scene. We're going to put a spawn in there, camera borders, and we're going to create a start game schematic. So let's jump into it. So first and foremost, back into base control, and we're going to scroll down here a little bit to animation types. Not to be confused with animations. There are a difference. We'll adjust them later on. So under animation types, you can see we already have idle, walk, run, sprint, jump, fall, land, damage, evade, death, revive, victory, and attack. We don't need them all for this one, but that's okay. We're just going to leave them as is. We are going to add a new animation in here. So let's click add, and let's call it use. So this is our new animation type. So now let's go ahead and jump over under animations. Now you can see we have the default one on here for now. That's okay. We're going to make some adjustments to this. Before we do, I want to show you some stuff though and kind of explain how this is going to work, and we'll address it as we move through. So under the tutorial assets folder, if you open up animations, there is a combatant controller right here. Let's go ahead and open that up. Now, there's a couple different things that we have set up here. So idle, move, and attack. These are 3 very special types of, I guess you'd call them states, right? These are called blend trees. Now basically what they do is they blend the movements around. So I'll show you what it looks like here. Here's idle. And you can see we've got idle east, north, west, and south. If you click on here, you'll see the parameter is set to direction, and the thresholds are set to 0, 1, 2, 3. Since we're dealing with 2D, we need different animations for different directions. And this is handled by the blend trees, which use the combatant's rotation interpreted into a 4-directional value, 0 through 3, which is forwarded through the animation setup, which we're going to do in a little bit. Additionally, the use, attack, and dead animations are played by setting bool parameters. So as you can see, we have a bool, true or false, that's all that means. Stands for, and just so you know, for those that are new, bool stands for boolean. Not to be confused with bouillon, you know, the little salt cubes when you're making your chicken stock and whatnot. So anyways, attack, use, and dead. If it's set to true, it plays the animation. If it's set to false, it doesn't. So up top you'll see that we are in the idle layer. Let's click on base layer. You can see we have speed as a float parameter, and that's going to be our movement speed. And that's going to be forwarded from here into mechanim. It controls if the idle or movement animations are used. The direction float, which we have right here, is the direction the combatant is facing, forwarded from our animation setup. And it controls which direction animation is used. Also, like we mentioned, it's a float. And the attack, use, and dead bools that are on there is going to just play the the appropriate animation. This is just one possible setup for handling the 2D animations. Mechanim and ORK are extremely flexible and can support a multitude of combinations and setups. Ultimately, this is just going to depend on your game and how you need your combatants to move. So, that being said, let's go ahead and handle the setup in ORK. So we're going to go back into mechanim. We're going to go to base controls, and we're going to go to animations. Now, we'll forward the horizontal speed and rotation, so speed and direction from the animator, into here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep default selected. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the mechanim settings right here, or mechanim, however you want to pronounce it. So we're going to set the horizontal speed, and we know that our speed is going to be speed. We also need to set the Z rotation, so we're going to scroll down. And remember, we want them to turn this way, not this way. Now, in 2D environments, the directional rotation, for 3D, it's usually the y-axis. Rotation type. So we want to change it off of full degree, and we're going to set it to direction 4. Now, the rotation of the combatants is 0 to 360 or minus 180 to 180. It's going to be translated into 4 directions. 0 being east. Let's do this here. 0 being east, 1 being north, 2 being west, and 3 being south. So that's why this is set like this. Now, we're going to set a float parameter. We're going to go ahead and enable that. And remember, this right here is called direction. So we can just copy that and throw that in there. Now what we need to do is we need to add some animations. So if we scroll down, you'll see Add Mechanim Animation. Go ahead and click on that. We're going to change the animation type to attack. And you'll see now we have Mechanim Animation 0, attack. We're going to scroll down a little bit further here, and we're going to add a parameter play. And the parameter play needs to be attack. Again, you have to make sure that this is set exactly like you have it in here. Punctuation, spacing, capitalization, all of it is very important. If you've got a lowercase a, it's not going to play the attack. So to make sure you have it correctly, if you double click on that parameter, you can copy it with Control C or Control C is going to make your life easier. So Control Charlie. Now this is on a PC. I believe on Mac it's Command C. So back into animations. Control Victory or Command Victory on Mac. We'll paste it. Parameter type, we know it's a bool, so we can leave that. And we need to set this to bool value to enable. So when it's played, this is set to true, which triggers the attack state. And then stop, we're going to add a parameter play stop. Again, we're going to set it to attack. And the bool value, again, parameter bool, the bool value will be disabled. So when it stops, let's do this here, make it easier. So when it gets set to true, that gets checked, which makes this play. When it's over, it's disabled, so this no longer plays. All right. Now, we can just minimize this really quick for a second. There we go. So now you can see we have the attack animation. So let's go ahead. We're going to set up 3 more animations. So what we're going to do is let's just copy this twice. 1, 2. There we go. So the next animation, let's go ahead and set that one to use. Here we go. And we'll go down here. And the parameter name again, we have it set in the animator as use. So we'll copy that, and all we have to change is just the parameter name under play and stop. There we go. So we got attack set up, we got use set up, and I tell you what, let's set up, we'll do this in just a second. The third one we're going to set up, let's set up a death. So when our player dies, we want to trigger the death animation, right? So back to our animator, copy that state there, and we're going to change parameter play to dead and parameter stop to dead. Now, why are these the same when the player dies? Well, when the player dies, we want to trigger the dead animation. But if the player's not dead, we don't want to have that animation. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and copy the death animation we just created. And we'll show you how to set that up to fix it. Let's change the animation type from death to revive. The revive animation is simply gets disabled. So let's show you what we do here. We don't need to play a revive animation, so let's just remove that. And what we're going to do is, ultimately, we're just going to reverse the dead animation. Easy peasy, right? So let's go ahead, we'll jump to the next setting really quick. We're going to set up the combatant. So we'll click on combatants, and we're going to go ahead and we are going to go to the combatant section over here on the left. Click on that. And then we're going to go under general settings. So if you accidentally click down here, that's okay. Just click on general settings up top. Let's work on the base settings first. We need to enable use object variables. Now, setting this up automatically adds an object variables component to the combatant's game object. Object variables are used to bind variables to game objects in the scene. We're also going to enable local variables. This will make the variables unique for each instance of a combatant. Otherwise, all combatants sharing the same object ID will also share the same variables and their values. So let's say you have a group with 5 fighters in it, and one of them dies, and you don't have this set up, well, they all die. We don't want that. So, moving right along, base settings are done. Let's jump into the animations and movements settings. So the default animation system, presently set to legacy. Now, that uses the legacy animation system through Unity. For this one, we're going to go ahead and just do mechanim. Now, they're using the legacy versus mechanim animation setups. There's a little bit of a difference. We're not going to focus on that now. We might address that in a later tutorial. But moving along, default animations, we're going to go ahead and add the animations button. And where it says animations none, we're going to click on that and set to default. It's going to set the animations that we just set up a moment ago, the attack, the death, the use, the revive, all of that. That's going to be set right in here with our player now. We're going to scroll down a little bit further, and we're going to set the component type, and this is under default movement component. Component type is going to be set to default, and we're going to enable the add component. We want to have the face target set up, and basically this just makes the combatant rotate into the direction it moves. So if it's moving north, then it needs to face north. We want to make sure that smooth is enabled, which it should have been already. Speed smoothing 10, that's pretty good. And the damping we can set to 0. This is not really needed to be set up in a 2D game, 4-directional anyways. Now, if you're blending all the movements together and you work in 3D, dampening would be a good thing to have. Now, we're going to go into a few more things. We're going to go to the sound settings. We're going to get that all set up. So if we scroll down a little further, here we go, sound settings. we're going to go ahead and we're going to add 3 sounds. So you can just go 1, 2, 3. Now the first sound type, we're going to set to attack. And if we click the little button here, click that little button, we're going to type in sword 2. Now you can use any audio clip that you want that you have on file for your attack, but just for the tutorial's sakes, we're going to keep it pretty simple. The next one we're going to do is hit. And this one, we're going to click the little circle here, and we're going to just use the first hit one here. And for the last one, we're going to do death, and we're going to use spirit. There we go. We're all set. Let's go ahead and get our fighter combatant set up now. So let's click on default, and let's start making some changes. So edit text, and we'll change that to fighter. Hit OK. We're going to scroll down a little bit here, and we'll just expand everything, make your life easier. Shrink it all, blow it all up. There we go. So we're going to scroll down under base settings. So we want to select the prefab right here, prefab settings, right? Let's click on here, and we'll type in night. We'll just use the little gray guy here. There we go. Update mode. Now, update mode is here. You've got a couple different choices. Auto, update, late update, or fixed update. Our combatants are moved by rigid body 2D components in this tutorial, meaning the update mode, which determines when things like the move speed or move directions are calculated, has to be set to update in the physics frame. Otherwise, you'll experience some strange jumps in speed as it's 0 in one frame and say 10 in another. Since the physics frame fixed update and the regular frame update are not in sync. So we'll go ahead and change this from auto to fixed update. We're going to go ahead and save the changes really quick and hit confirm. And now we're going to jump over into what everybody loves as game design. We're going to set up a scene. So let's open the scenes folder, and let's go ahead and open the town menu. And the reason I'm getting this pop-up is because I'm not saving anything in the sample scene. I'm not worried about it because I've put nothing in it. So I'm just going to hit don't save. If you've started building stuff in your simple scene, make sure to save that scene, okay? So here we go. Here is the little scene that's put together for you. Here's your x-axis, here's your y-axis, and we're going to use this as kind of a building block. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some ORK game objects in here. So I like to keep things nice and clean, so I'm going to right click in my hierarchy here on the left hand side. Wherever you got it set is fine. It's just how you like it. This is the I actually do enjoy the default setup. I play around with it a little bit. With this empty game object, I'm going to call it ORK objects. And I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of empties under here. And I'm going to call the first one camera borders. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag these two right here down into it. There we go. And this just helps keeps your hierarchy and the thing over here clean. So we're going to click on the ORK objects empty game object we just put together. And we're going to right click and we're going to go down to ORK Framework, and we're going to go to ORK Game Starter. We're going to add that into the scene. Now, this is kind of the make it or break it portion here. If you don't have this set up, then the ORK Framework won't be called. So we're going to make sure we're clicked on that. We're going to jump over here and we're going to click Start Game. This immediately starts a new game after initializing ORK. Now, we're going to click back on the ORK objects here, and we're going to add another game work item. We're going to go under mechanim, and we are going to add a spawn point. Now, the spawn point, you can set it wherever you want. This is just where the player is going to spawn at. For this particular one, I know that I want it right around here. So we're going to go on the X minus 18, on the Y minus 1, and the Z can be left to 0. We also need to use the Z rotation because we want it to rotate on the Z axis. Now, a couple different things here to point out. You'll have a spawn ID, which we are going to address later on. This kind of just ranks it kind of like an identification so you can link to this specific spawn point later on. Use the scale. For the most part, we ignore those. Place on the ground, definitely a challenge because sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. For right now, we can leave it checked. In a 3D world, if you have the spawn point, let's say this is the ground, this top part of the map here is the ground, and you set the spawn point above the ground, it'll automatically link it right to the ground below the player. But we won't need to worry about that for now. Okay, so let's go under our camera borders, and we're going to set these up. So let's go ahead and click both of these. So you can either shift click or control click, or you can do them one at a time. Either or, it doesn't matter. We're going to click add component. And if you don't already have it typed in, we're going to type in camera, or you can even type in camera border. We're going to click and add that on there. Now you can't edit this camera border based on anything, if you've got multiple items selected, but that's okay. The settings as they are now, we can leave as is. The padding is basically what it would do is it would stop the map. Sorry, stop the camera, this little white box you see here, from going too far over. But that's okay for now. Let's go ahead and save the scene, so Control S. We're going to go back into mechanim, and we're going to go to schematics this time. And we are going to create a start game schematic. Now, for those that are familiar with visual scripting in Unity or blueprints in Unreal Engine, that's kind of what this is right now. So you start with the settings tab. For every schematic you get, there's a lot of different things that are down here that you can adjust. For right now, we're not going to need to worry about them. What we are going to do is we are going to add a join group node. So in our little grid up top here, let's pull this down so you can see a little better. Here we go. So in our little grid that we've got up here, you can see this thing is absolutely massive, so you can create some crazy things. We're going to right click, and then you can go to add node, group, group, join group. Or if you know the node that you want to add, so we know that join group is what we want to add, you can right click, type in join, and there it is. And then we want to add a spawn ORK player. So again, we can go add node, then we can go to group, group. Uh-oh, it's not in there. So where do we have to go? Well, let's go back. So let's try game, player, spawn ORK player. So that's where that search function can become really helpful. You can spend time looking for a node. If you don't know where it's at, it's good to find it. So we're going to go spawn ORK player. Look at that. So much faster. Now to connect these, you just simply click this little red dot and drag it over. Click this little red dot and drag it over. So we've got the nodes in, but it's not quite right. Let's click on join group. Let's go ahead and set this node up like it should be. So the group origin, we want to have the active player group. We want to get this from our combatant, but we don't know what combatant we want because it's set to none. So let's click on that. Let's go ahead and choose our fighter. Now let's jump over to the spawn ORK player. Remember how we were talking about the ID, the identification of the spawn point, right? Well, what this is saying is we want ORK to spawn the fighter at a lot of different options here, right? But we want you to spawn the fighter at the spawn point with the ID of 0. That's what this means. So now that's all set. We're going to go ahead and we're going to save this schematic. Now, remember how I showed you I already had a few things set up, the imports, the schematics, that sort of stuff. This is why. These are already set there. So let's open the schematics folder and let's call this one Start Game. Let's go ahead and hit save. So now we've got the schematic put together. Let's go ahead and use it. So let's jump over into UI. Let's scroll down a little bit over here on the left and let's go to Start menu. And under the new game settings, let's click this little circle here and add that start game in there. Let's go ahead and save our settings, confirm, and let's test it out. Theoretically, our guy should be able to walk around. There we go, lefty. Oh, look at that. You see how he flips? We go up and we go down. He turns backwards, so he's not quite what we want to have happen here, right? Let's go ahead and fix this. So let's hit stop. Now, all of our player combatant prefabs are variants of a base prefab. That's how these tutorial assets are put together. So we'll show you what we mean here. So we'll go to the tutorial assets, we'll go to prefabs, and we'll go under combatants. This one right here is the combatant base. So if we open this up and we jump to the scene, you can see we've got base, mount, front, weapon, sprite. Let's make one adjustment to here, and what that's going to do is going to allow us to fix all of the variants, right? So we're going to add a face camera component to the sprite. So we're going to click on the sprite, add component. We're going to start typing in face, and you can see we have face camera 2D UI. Let's go ahead and add that. And for this one setup, you want to make sure that mechanim camera is enabled. Go ahead and save that. We'll jump back over to the scene view, just using that little, so you saw how I did that. This little back arrow right here, you click that, it'll jump you back. So now if we hit play, WASD, he walks left, he walks right, he walks up. Oh, it looks right. It looks right. Now, you'll notice how the diagonal walking is a little different, and that's okay. In a lot of your older 2D RPGs or JRPGs, that's how it was set. So, that being said, we're all set. The next video we're going to do is we're going to set up some music and we're going to connect the scenes together. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me here on the channel. Feel free to reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. Hit that like button. Hit that notification bell. Get notified when these videos go live so we can help progress your game together and grow your knowledge of not only Unity, but also ORK Framework. But until the next time, folks, have a great night, have a great day, depending on where you're at and when you're watching the video, and happy coding.
Thanks for checking out this video for the ORK Framework tutorial series. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to throw a question down in that comment box, or you can hop into any of the live streams and catch me live and ask me live while I'm there. If this video did help you out in any way, shape, fashion, or form, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. That being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Good luck on all of your future projects. And until next time, happy developing.